One of my favorite topics that I've shown over the years is polymerization shrinkage. I call it the enemy in one of my lectures. I don't remember which lecture, but it is. We all know polymerization happens and it shrinks the composite. Well, that's okay, but what do we do about that? I mean, shrinkage doesn't sound good to me. That's going to open gaps, and so we've got to learn to control that. So here's a picture that a friend of mine made. Actually, I didn't make this picture, but we all know this little line right here. That's the so-called white line that it develops when things shrink and break the enamel a little bit. How many of you guys don't know what this is down here? But I've looked at so many of these, I can tell you what it is. That's unpolymerized or incompletely polymerized composite stained by Carey's detector. So that's an obstacle we've got to overcome if we're going to make a new material. Pretty common. So this is an interesting slide. This shows shrinkage. Now, this is a reference I'm talking about. I've got all the references, I think there are 51 of them. And my little 1 or 2 sentence synopsis, kind of what's said in the thing, that's what I usually say. Now, these are low shrinkage composites over here. The one, the detail guy would probably try to tell you this is the stuff to go with. These are high shrinkage composites. Like these are all microfills. But they're, how you say, very stretchable, low modulus, okay? But high shrinkage. Now, if you look at the stress placed on the bond on a class 2 or class 1 filling, you'll note that the high shrinkage composite puts less stress on the bond. Boy, now that's pretty nice. It's what we're looking for. So as a rule, I would pick one of these composites over the ones on the right. Now, my friend Ron Jackson came up with a sonic fill, and I think it's a very clever idea. They claim that you can fill 5 millimeters deep with it, and it works fine. Well, being a skeptic, I checked it with ISO 4049 test, and on a good day, that is correct. But there are problems. Now, here's a potential issue. Who looks at the light when you're curing? Does the dentist? Does the dental assistant? Probably not. So we've got issues then. Now, let's watch an OCT, a shrinkage of composite. Okay, we're going to make a composite prep, cavity prep, and we're going to put filling in there, we're going to watch it shrink. Okay? Now, this is a composite specimen. That's the prep, but it's a little hard to see. So I just took my marker and just marked it so you know what you're looking at. That's the prep. Now let's go ahead and fill it. Okay, here's sonic fill, but I call it sonic fail because it always fails. Later on, I'll tell you how Ron Jackson actually made it work. He's an honest guy and it worked for him, but he was using a special bonding agent called OptiBond FL. And those of you who know FL, the second layer of FL is actually a microfilled composite we might call flowable these days. That's why he was successful. I told Ron Jackson, I said, Ron, you're doing a great lecture, but you recommend sonic fill. I highly recommended you told me you're using OptiBond FL because we didn't find it working like you did. Okay, let's go ahead and put bulky Z in there. Now, here comes the bulky Z. Now, somewhere in here, let's turn on the light. Waiting 90 seconds. There's no gap. Fantastic, huh? Okay. Now, Ali Reza at the University of Washington did the OCT studies. Side fill on bulky Z, no gap. Sonic fail, gap. Sure fail, partial gap. So I looked at this and says, wow, these guys actually almost succeeded. So I says, guys, let's look at what they did. Well, my staff, they convinced me don't waste time on it. We don't care what they did. We've got a better material already. Okay, fair enough. Then nobody believes manufacturers. That's kind of a good thing. Because most of them have put the truth in its most favorable light. Okay, let's be polite today. But Nate Lawson, he's a very well-known guy. I think he told me he took over when, what was the guy there, the chair retired. Sorry, escaping my mind right now. But anyway, Nate tested bulk EZ for me, along with other materials that he had tested before, same protocol. See, here's Filtech bulk flow. Pretty close, pretty good. Here's Activa that leaks, and they can advertise it as, I forget that, bulk fill and bioactive or something. I think that's a lot of marketing hype. Bulk EZ worked great. So Nate calls me on the phone and he says, Ray, your material doesn't leak. I said, yeah, I know that. How'd you do that? I said, very carefully. And then Mike Nelson, he's a friend of mine in Northern California, what we call a beta tester. He was doing an occlusal buckle and tried to get down here with the bulk EZ, but he missed. It didn't go all the way down. So after it cured in about 90 seconds, and he came in and put in StarFlow, light cured it, and see, there's your white line. Well, where the bulk EZ was in there, no light line because it shrank toward the tooth. Fantastic. Now this is bulk EZ at 4 years and 5 months on 29 and 30 down here. And that's working pretty nice, 4 years and 5 months. I don't see any white lines. I don't see any color, a little bit of color mismatch here, but certainly not anything a patient's ever going to object to. So we're pretty happy with that. And then there's some more. Again, looking great. Color a little bit off here, but again, I don't think that's a problem. Now, we did see some excessive wear. This was Milk Nelson, and this only occurs on second molars. At least I've only seen it there on second molars. Well, Mike prepared it with a device called a Siljet, okay, and that worked fine. And then there's a bulk EZ Plus, which is bulk EZ with another filler added, and that works really well. In fact, it doesn't even wear. So if you're buying material, you probably want to buy some bulk EZ Plus. I think you'd be quite happy with that. But it isn't quite as chameleon as bulk EZ, so take your pick.